Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., all rights reserved.
Welcome back. It's 12 after the hour. Thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm Jim Blasingame. You're listening to the Small Business Advocate Show, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad John Bradberry is here, too. John's a longtime member of our Brain Trust, one of the great entrepreneurial experts out there in the marketplace, helping companies just like you and me put our best foot forward in the marketplace. He's doing it on a number of levels, from a consulting standpoint, from a capitalization standpoint, and from an author standpoint. He's the author of 6 Secrets to Startup Success. John Bradberry, welcome back. What else you got going on these days?
I'm just excited about 2013, Jim. Thank you. Good to be here. How are you?
We're doing great. It's good to have you back.
Great.
Do a better job than I just did of introducing yourself. Tell the audience just a little bit more about what you're doing now.
Well, I have spent my background's in psychology originally, and essentially focused on the psychology of performance. How does a person or a group of people or an organization take what they're doing to the next level? And I did that mostly in the big corporate space for about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, worked with global companies. And,
yeah.
I also had the opportunity, though, to work with some startups and some exciting growth, smaller, medium-sized growth companies.
And you saw how cute and cuddly we are, and you said, I want to be around those people more often.
That is so true. And I took a deep dive and ended up researching and writing a book on entrepreneurship. Really fascinated with how you take that idea from the napkin into something that works in the real world.
Right.
And, the book has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot through that process. And now what I'm trying to do, Jim, or am doing, is marrying what I call universals, those principles that apply in all business spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And
with leadership as one of the founding elements.
Particularly in terms of leading, and I think of it as helping entrepreneurs be better leaders.
Yeah.
And helping leaders be better entrepreneurs.
Well, and one of the things that I want you to help me with this year, and I'm going to be I've made a commitment this year, even more than in the 15 years past, is to help small business owners become better CEOs. Mm-hmm. A small business can have a lot of managers, and the owner's always the alpha manager, but they're the only CEO, and the CEO job has to be done. And if they don't do it, it doesn't get done. And therefore the company languishes, flounders, or maybe fails or whatever, but it does not perform, to use your term a minute ago. It will not perform without without somebody doing the CEO job. And so John, we've got to find a way to help small business owners intentionally set aside time and inclination and brain power and resources to mm-hmm. allow themselves to get to a CEO frame of mind, a CEO environment, a CEO allotment of time. What do you think?
That's absolutely right. And that last phrase is so important. Where your time goes is ultimately going to be the determining factor.
Mm-hmm.
And we get swept up into all the noise and distraction in our world. And I'd say, whether or not if you're not able to be that CEO and you really care about your business, then maybe a different question needs to be posed, and that is there someone who can do that, and are you willing to partner with them?
Right. I've actually seen, you and I both, you probably know them too, entrepreneurs who were smart enough and visionary enough to start a business and grow it, but it got so big, it got so sophisticated, the founder wasn't actually as sophisticated as he or she needed to be, and they brought in a more sophisticated CEO. And that's down the road. That's not, that's something that your board will help you decide in those days. I'm talking about folks who are well short of that. And of course, one of the most important things that a CEO has to do is communicate. Talk to us about what you mean when you say when you talk about the integrity of communication.
Well, I use the word integrity of communication, and not to be high and mighty, but it really has to do with cutting through, kind of grounding yourself in reality. Because you and I have talked quite a bit about how we entrepreneurs can get attached to our ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Our businesses are
baby. We fall in love with them.
We fall in love with our idea. This happens, either consciously, but usually unconsciously. And it's easy to distort reality. It's easy to see what we want to see. And so integrity of communication for me is the antidote to that. It's the protection we have from going off in directions that feel good to us, but don't actually help us make progress in our business.
This above all to thine own self be true. Is that
right.
what you're talking about?
Yes. And
as Polonius said to Falstaff, I believe that was in Hamlet, this above all that thine own self be true. If you're lying to yourself, then which we all do, John.
Of course.
We all lie to ourselves. But if you're doing it pervasively, if you're doing it continually, if you're doing it and you can't get out of that, if you can't learn and avoid this in the long run, then you're probably not going to make it.
That's right. And I as you and I both see a lot of founders or owners or founding teams that do get caught up at times in the excitement of the startup process and get caught up in what I would call a feel-good bubble.
Yeah.
And so one of the first principles that I work with founders on is I want you to understand that making progress doesn't always feel good. And don't confuse the two.
Mm-hmm.
And so the times where it's great to celebrate and it's great to focus on the good news at times, but it's also very important to have the tough conversations, to look at the data or the financials that may not be where you want them to be, and acknowledge that person in the room who is challenging.
Right.
The pervasive.
And if you haven't lived long enough to have had someone tell you that something that you thought was the craziest, meanest, most hateful, wrong thing you ever heard in your life, and then 6 months later you find out they were actually true, they were telling you the truth, you need to live long enough to get to have that one of those behind you, don't you, John?
That's right. And listen to your customers in that respect. There
you go. They'll tell you the truth. Those customers, those pesky customers. John Bradberry is our guest, ladies and gentlemen. His book is called 6 Secrets to Startup Success. We're going to come back and talk some more about integrity of communication as you continue to pursue your role as a CEO.
Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other copying, redistribution, or publication without prior written consent is prohibited. All rights reserved.